Hi guys, and welcome back to Vlogmas day number 8. In today's video, the organization that I want to mention is the Free the 350 Bail Fund, which bails out black people incarcerated in the Dane County jail system. Now, Dane County is in Wisconsin, which is where I lived for a year, which is why I'm mentioning this particular bailout fund. But obviously you could look at one that, if you're from the US, is close to where you live, or if you've been to the US, one that is close to where you visited, or if you have neither been to the US nor lived there but still want to donate to a bailout fund, you could still choose whichever one you wanted. But I will link down below to the particular information of the 350 Bail Fund. So if you're interested, you can check it out. Now in today's video, I want to do a book review, and I want to review The Other Americans by Laila Lalami. Now, I actually read this all the way back in March. I read this judging the first round of the Booktube Prize. I believe this was Group G in the fiction category, if I remember correctly. And I never get around to reviewing it, so I thought I would do that after all. The book tells the story of what happens after Driss Guerri, Moroccan immigrant to the United States, is killed by a speeding car late at night after he has left the diner that he owns, and the driver actually drives off and leaves people to try and figure out what happened. Now, we are getting the story told through multiple perspectives in this, particularly through Driss' family, his wife Mariam, and his two daughters, especially his younger daughter Nora. We are also getting, for example, the perspective of a police officer that is trying to solve whether this was just a hit and run, whether this was intentional and a murder, and trying to figure out what happened. We are also getting the perspective of Efrain, an undocumented immigrant who actually witnessed the hit and run, but because of his immigration status is too afraid to come towards the police and tell them what he saw. And then we're also getting the perspective of Anderson, who owns a bowling alley across from the diner that Driss owned. Now, Driss and Mariam immigrated into the US from Morocco because they were, as young people, they were critical of the Moroccan government, and so they had to leave. And while they are both very educated in the US, they couldn't work in their particular fields anymore. Particularly Driss, I think he studied philosophy, if I remember correctly. And so instead they take on the diner that Driss actually turns into a really successful business. Now, their two daughters, Selma and Nora, are quite different. Selma has sort of a very established life at the point that the story is set. She is married, she has twins, she runs together with her husband a dental practice, and is sort of living the expectations that the mother has for her children. Whereas Nora decided to go in a different direction, and she is studying music and wants to make that her sort of field of expertise. She was much closer to her father, and so severely feels the loss of him. And when she goes home for the funeral, you can see her sort of being at odds a bit with her sister, and especially her mother. And we get a lot of chapters from her perspective, and we actually only get one single chapter from Selma's perspective. But the way that that is done and the information that is revealed in that chapter, I thought made it very impactful. So I thought that was an interesting and really good choice on the part of Laila Lalami. Now, in a surprising turn of events, Nora decides to take over her father's diner and keep running it. And therefore she stays in the town, and it sort of surprises her mother and her sister that she makes that choice. And while she is there, she starts dating Jeremy, and Jeremy is a guy that she went to high school with, who is now a police officer. However, he is not directly involved in her father's case. Jeremy, however, has his own struggles that he's dealing with. He is suffering from PTSD because he was in the war in Iraq, and he also has to cope with his memories from his childhood when his mother passed away and his father in turn became an alcoholic because of that. And over the course of the novel there are quite a few secrets that come out. Noah has to learn that her father isn't quite the perfect man that she thought he was. And I would say the central themes of the novel are difficult family dynamics, racism. The police officer that is trying to solve the case is a black woman, so she has to deal with quite a bit of racism in this. And then also immigration, of course, particularly through the backstory of Mariam. We get her perspective and we go back in time to when they came into the US and what that was like for her. So I would say those are like the major themes of the novel. Now, of the 6 books that I read back then for the Booktube Prize, I actually only ranked this one in place 4, and not by any means because I thought this was a bad book. The first round was a pretty good batch of books for me. I didn't have any like complete full-on duds in there for me. And however, out of the 3 books in there that used multiple perspective, the other 2 were Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips and Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. I have reviews on both of these on my channel, so I will link those down below. I would say that this one handled the multiple perspectives the best, for sure. However, unlike some of the other books on this list where it was the author's first novel, like for example On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Wong, this is not the first novel by Laila Lalami, so I was a bit more strict with it because of that. There was one minor thing close to the end of the novel that annoyed me, and that is a character who is letting out a breath she was holding. Now, while that in and of itself is a bit of a stereotypical phrase, in writing she lets it go after she's been talking. And if you try to hold your breath and then talk, you will realize that that is very, very difficult. So that was just like a minor thing that annoyed me a bit. However, if you think that the themes in this book sound interesting and the story intrigues you, then by no means let that deter you. I would say that this is a very well crafted and otherwise well written novel, so don't let that minor thing deter you from picking it up if it interests you. So yeah, let me know if you have read The Other Americans or if you want to read it now, and I will also link down below to some other booktubers' opinions on this particular book. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!